Evening, Richard.
Good evening, Kevin. It's good to be with you.
Haven't you had enough of all this? Why is Drakeford doing this?
Yeah, well, look, the guy's a complete and absolute lunatic. I call him the emperor down at Cardiff Bay, who at a strike of a pen can make decisions that changes society in Wales. And we've had this, don't forget, the most draconian measures in Wales more than any of the other nations in the whole of the UK. The guy simply doesn't look at the figures, the data, medical science, because we had vaccine passports introduced here in Wales, as you know. And his statement was, we're introducing them so we can keep businesses open like nightclubs and pubs. That was in November. In December, he's decided to shut the nightclubs down. Yeah. The hospitality industry here in Wales has been absolutely decimated by this man, and he has no concern or care for the people of Wales. Although he says he's protecting Wales, people are now waking up, Kevin, and thinking to themselves, he's not protecting us. He's absolutely ruining our country and turning it into a socialist republic. That's what he's up to, and I'm afraid the guy's completely lost the plot.
And it's self-evident that his vaccine passport scheme, which he brought in the middle of October, has not worked. Because otherwise, why would he now have to say, well, actually, not vaccine part, no one can go to football? So he's had a scheme for 2.5 months called the vaccine passport scheme, which I think is very divisive. It's the imposition of medical apartheid. It splits people into those who've been vaccinated and those who haven't become second-class citizens. But he's had that in your country, and he's also had it, or it has been going in Wales as well. They've now both countries, especially Drakeford, said no more crowds at all. So will he now admit that his vaccine passport scheme didn't work?
Well, it's very unlikely because he never accepts responsibility for the decisions he makes. I mean, lots of these things have been passed in the Senedd here, the Welsh Parliament, without any prior scrutiny or debate by the Welsh Conservatives here, and there's no real opposition. I mean, he literally has the powers under the Public Health Act to be able to do what he wants, when he wants, to lock people down in Wales whenever he feels like it. And it's just so disproportionate, given the fact that Omicron, let's be quite honest, is just like a common cold or a flu. You get a sore throat or a runny nose. And based on the evidence, if we're going to based on the evidence, Kevin, there is no evidence to show that this Omicron is going to have huge hospitalizations or huge deaths here in Wales, as it hasn't elsewhere around the world. And I'm afraid that he's using these powers to legislate for things that quite frankly is absolutely absurd. The guy is crazy. It is my personal opinion. It might not be everyone's opinion, but I think it really is, because there is no evidence whatsoever to support some of these draconian measures. Another thing, Kevin, he wants to fine people if they don't work from home. 60 quid fine if you're found
to get fined to go to work to put a roof over your head. Unbelievable.
I was crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I fear that although England, Boris hasn't gone down this road, and I heard you talk to Ben Habib a few minutes ago talking about how lucky you seem to be with Boris not going down that road, although I have no faith in him either, as I don't have in Drakeford here in Wales. Yeah, it seems like they're addicted to locking people down. What is the matter, people? We've got to get to a stage in our lives where we learn to live with this, okay? Yeah. It's a virus, it's a cold. We've got to stop this worshiping at the altar of the NHS all the time and using it as a leverage to take away people's civil and social liberties, because that's what they're doing. They're using the NHS and COVID as a bargaining chip to remove our social and civil liberties, the things that make our country great. And I know there are many dissenting voices like myself here in Wales who are against the Welsh government on a lot of these issues, and in the UK. I've been to so many protests, and the mood on the ground is this, Kevin. People at one stage were saying, well, he's keeping us safe, you know. Now they're saying, what the hell is he doing? They're changing their tune. They realise
also, Richard, what is he keeping you people in Wales safe from? I'll tell you what he's keeping you safe from. A mild variant that will make you a bit sick for a couple of days, and then you'll be all right. So he's a classic case of something that's been driving me nuts for 4 weeks. Everyone said, oh, Omicron, it spreads so quickly. The transmissibility is frightening. And I kept saying 2 weeks ago, I kept saying it into this very microphone, I said, but what does it do to you? Yeah. What does it do to you? Turns out it doesn't kill you. It doesn't put you in hospital. It makes you slightly sick for a couple of days. Then you're all right. So why does he feel the need to protect you people in Wales from a slight cold?
Well, I know, I agree with you, Kev. Look, what he's doing is he's taking modelling from SAGE, the worst case scenario, right? And they're making predictions based on what could apocalyptically happen here in Wales or across the UK and basing decisions on that. It's absolutely absurd. Taking in, advice from Neil Ferguson, for example, we were told that the numbers would double. Now, what we're having at the moment is huge numbers of cases. That's because we've got huge numbers of people testing. I mean, it's obvious. If you mass test, you get mass results on the virus. It's as simple as that, Kev.
It's healthy people, millions of healthy people every day testing themselves and discovering, not that they're ill, but there's 2 lines on their lateral flow test. So they don't have to go into self-isolation for 10 days, or I think it's 7 now in England anyway. But they're not ill. They're not ill. Yeah. It's mad. It's madness.
Yeah, on that point, I think you mentioned earlier in the show, there's over 18,000 doctors and nurses now currently self-isolating. We have a crisis in the NHS, and it's not COVID, it's management, it's politicians interfering with things that they shouldn't be interfering with. You know, our NHS has been in crisis here in Wales before the pandemic. 5 out of 7 of our health boards were in special measures under this current Welsh government. We've had Labour since devolution began, and they have failed the people of Wales miserably, and it continues to be so. Now, I fear, Kevin, I know you want a good end to your last year, the last show of this year, if you like. But look, I think things in Wales are going to get worse. I think Mark Drakeford, after the 27th of December, is going to bring further restrictions in. I think he's going to, the children, especially, who've been affected by this mostly. I'm a father of 5 children, so I know it's affected me personally. I think he's going to bring certain measures around school. I'm predicting that will happen. I'm speaking to teachers that I know here in Wales who are saying that they think it's going to happen. So look, there's a lot worse to come here in Wales, but we've got to fight against it. We've got to use our democratic levers that we've been given and make sure in future elections we don't let the people of Wales forget what this man has done to our country.
You've got to get rid of that guy, Richard. You really do. Last point, we just heard him, bringing in his stupid, unnecessary new restrictions because Omicron spreads fast. The common cold spreads fast. You don't lock countries down because of it. But he's so proud of himself, isn't he? Castigating the English government for not being able to move fast enough. They've been paralysed. So he's very proud of himself. I can't imagine that the people of Wales are pleased with his pride in what he's doing to them. Surely the mood in Wales now is rising against him because he did rather well in the last election, didn't he? Yeah. Surely now they've had enough of this tin pot despot.
They definitely are, Kev. I'm seeing it, hearing it all around me. People who even voted for him, who were confident in his leadership and his handling of the pandemic. Because all the polls were showing here in Wales that people favoured Mark Drakeford's approach to the COVID pandemic than Boris's. Things are shifting and things are changing. When you also consider as well a video that I posted on Twitter that's had 1.3 million views of him dancing at a Diwali party when he was telling the public in Wales to wear a mask in a shop and not to have close contact with people in indoor spaces. The hypocrisy is cutting through just as much as it has with Boris and Christmas parties. We've seen it here with members of the Senate who broke the rules back last December when they had a booze up down the bay, as we call it. So people are seeing it, and there is a change and there is a mood in Wales. And I, for one, will continue to raise those concerns, and hopefully the people of Wales will wake up and realise that this guy needs to go.
I totally agree. And if you can judge a man by his friends, let's not forget that Mark Drakeford is best friends with Jeremy Corbyn. Richard, great talking to you. Have a very good Christmas. That's Richard Taylor,
too,
political commentator and host of the Rich Politics podcast.